Money in the Bank. For the occasion, we got a special double episode for you. You'll get Friday's Smackdown Lowdown Review as well as Monday's Raw Talk, all in one. Well, time is mellow, so let's get right into it. Kevin Patrick and Sam Roberts welcome us to the Smackdown Lowdown. Lovely to see some new faces, and they announce our special guest, which we'll find out presently. There's a clip of Natalya with a baby stroller and Ronda's mafia compliments. It's a real nice jacket you got there. Be ashamed if something happened to it. To build up their impending match at Money in the Bank, who's about to walk out of the pay-per-view/premium live event, SmackDown Women's Champion? Let me know in the comments. The rundown Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura's qualifying match. I absolutely love to see them fight. It's always a good time. The finish was silly though. Shinsuke makes it back to the ring just in time to be awarded with a hell of a kick and a pin for all his trouble. Roberts and Patrick speculate as to whether Sami Zayn will actually protect Roman Reigns as Mr. Money in the Bank. And Megan Morant interviews the honorary Uce backstage. So Megan Morant asks what Sami Zayn thinks about Drew McIntyre and Sheamus now being in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Sami's all tugging on his bloodline shirt and whatnot, and he says he's not thrilled about it, and it would be great if Sheamus and Drew weren't even in the match. But he says we need to reframe how we're all looking at this. Well, tell us, dear Sami, how is that? He declares we need to focus on the fact that he won his qualifying match, meaning that the bloodline is represented by a reliable winner who will make sure that Roman Reigns stays protected. What's more, they don't call him the locker room leader for nothing. He's been around a long time, and the place is filled with vultures. So if these vultures possess Money in the Bank, they'll take any opportunity to take the Universal Championship. But when he wins, the bloodline knows the contract stays in-house. He doesn't say what will happen after he wins. He conveniently leaves that part out. But he asks if Megan maybe wants to start over, ask the question again. She wishes him good luck and sends it back to the studio. Sami Zayn puts his finger up and says, "We the ones." You could have about knocked me over. I don't know what was so funny about him uttering that catchphrase, but I was hollering. That made the segment for me. We are then graced by the presence of WWE Hall of Famer JBL and his hotel bedroom stacked high with pillows. But wait, it's not a hotel. And now we know he's a pillow enthusiast, I guess? Not sure why we needed to know that, but okay. He's consistent in his disdain for Sami Zayn, but he gives him his props for his talent and his brilliance for aligning himself with the bloodline. Sam Roberts points out this headline of the man with the hardest clothesline in the business also having the softest pillow collection, then asks about the pressure Sami Zayn has on him in this match. See, if he doesn't win, he has the bloodline to deal with. JBL doesn't think Sami Zayn will actually lay down for Roman, and he calls him a double-crosser. That's why he likes Sami. He's dishonest. But maybe JBL's being dishonest about his hatred for Zayn? Or maybe it's a love-hate relationship. But they move to Natalya and Ronda. JBL calls Ronda one of the greatest UFC and Raw Women's Champions, as well as Natalya. And Natalya is the only woman to graduate from the Heart Dungeon. He believes Natalya could actually make Ronda tap out, but he doesn't know if she will. Will she? Stay tuned to my Money in the Bank predictions video to see my thoughts on the Ronda-Natalya feud. Following some ads, we get footage of the Intercontinental Championship rematch between Ricochet and Gunther. Of course, Ricochet gets absolutely slaughtered. I guess Gunther's starting to grow on me just a little bit, but mostly because Ludwig Kaiser does such a good job of making him feel important. That crazy shotgun dropkick didn't hurt either. Patrick and Roberts express some mutual fear over this destructive pairing, and they converse about other great Intercontinental champions down the years. Roberts brings up an excellent point here, and he says this has now become a show in which we don't see title changes anymore because no one's going to beat Gunther. Now, I know he meant it as an amazement, as some enthusiasm over the talent in the roster, but there's something inherently sad about that idea. What stakes are there in a show in which you know no titles are changing hands. Gunther is tearing everyone apart. Roman's barely on the show. The only time the Usos win is when the championships are on the line. Ronda's not giving up her title ever. And it's been 2 lifetimes since anyone's even mentioned the women's tag team championships. I'm not trying to be negative, but a program in which the titles never change hands sounds a little bland. The conversation moves to Tamina and Shotzi's Money in the Bank qualifying match. Tamina was a replacement for Aaliyah, who was injured. Though I wished Tamina would have been in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match too, I'm quite happy for Shotzi. Truth be told, Tamina could have been in it as well because it looks like the men's and women's matches only have 7 people in them. Megan Morant asks Shotzi some questions about qualifying. Shotzi shouts that the contract changes lives. She came into this qualifying match with a lot of fire, but in Money in the Bank, when she climbs that ladder, she'll climb it with more fire and more aggression than anyone's ever seen from her. That's who she is. When she climbs it, tick-tock. It's only a matter of time before she's Smackdown Women's Champion. I'm hoping that TikTok isn't a catchphrase of hers. It just made me think of Karrion Kross, if I'm being honest. But I did love the image of her climbing that ladder fueled by fire and aggression. Like, that was ice cold in the best possible way. So they outlined the current participants: Raquel Rodriguez, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Lacey Evans, Shotzi, and Liv Morgan, and one more. Then talk about the enemies Shotzi's made backstage and the fact that they will all be in the ring with her at the same time. Following more ads, we get a clip from Mr. Pat McAfee. He's cutting his promo about how he feels alive and wants to challenge Happy Corbin for SummerSlam. He's a wrestler who's a true fan, and it's great to see. He leads the crowd in a bum-ass Corbin chant, and they didn't have to do my dude like that. Corbin's not a bum anymore. He gets to be the rich prick, but at least it's without SpaghettiOs on his shirt. But we're slingshotted over to Sheamus and Drew. We're also being yanked around by Adam Pearce. He's saying they're not in the match, but wait, they can be if they win a tag team match against the Usos. And I'm like, hold up. If they beat the Usos, then they need to be undisputed tag team champions. Anyway, Drew and Sheamus did win. They didn't become the champions, but they are indeed in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Are either Drew or Sheamus poised to be Mr. Money in the Bank? Let me know in the comments. Meanwhile, Megan Morant can't even get her first question to Sheamus out without the Brawling Brutes resident Scrappy-Doo Butch just reaching out and grabbing for her. What is this dude's damage? Poor Pete Dunne. I declare your boy needs a rabies shot, or some holy water and a couple of steaks, or some silver bullets, or kryptonite, or saltpeter. Does that work on butches? Then he and Ridge Holland run off, then come back. But Sheamus says they're going back up to the top. It was a team effort from the Brawling Brutes, not him and Drew. He has to keep telling them to behave themselves while he's talking. I mean, is it backstage or is it like 15 minutes before nap time at pre-K? Like, I don't know. He reminds us of Sheamus 5:15 and says the Brawling Brutes are to have their first taste of gold and now they're going to the bar. Interesting he didn't say pub. And it made me think of the bar. Maybe just because I just watched Blood and Guts the night before with Claudio Castagnoli in it, which was magical, by the way. But this segment was kind of weird. I don't understand this stable. But I still had a smile on my face when it was over, like Sheamus is this big brother trying to corral his mischievous younger brothers. JBL, for his part, likes the Brawling Brutes, and he says he got his tooth knocked out by an Irishman in 1993. It was Fit Finlay. But they went out for a pint afterwards. Don't know the context, but as much of a bully as JBL's rumored to be, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Fit Finlay knocked one of his teeth out. But he says you don't want to lose to someone that you don't like, and that's what Drew and Sheamus will have to deal with at Money in the Bank. Finally, they ask JBL's thoughts on Pat McAfee, and he says they act like he's Mean Gene, who was an announcer but was not a wrestler. He goes further, stating Pat is a former NFL All-Pro, and he's a successful athlete and a competent wrestler that loves the business so much that he wants to be a commentator when financially he doesn't have to be. Now, that's not the first time JBL's mentioned that. Now, I'm not sure of the significance that holds for him, but I just find it interesting that he keeps bringing that particular point up whenever he talks about Pat McAfee. He also calls Happy Corbin a wonderful human being who took Madcap under his wing, and their breakdown was worse than what happened between Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. But he follows that Pat McAfee has underestimated Baron Corbin and that he can be a world heavyweight champion one day. I agree, JBL. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'd like to see it. So my rating is 4 out of 5. It was pretty good. The content was more or less fresh. I was laughing throughout, even through the Brawling Brutes madness. The must-watch segment was kind of tough to parse out though. I enjoyed Shotzi's passion, Sheamus's babysitting, and Sami's biting off the Usos biting off black people with the We the Ones. It was all great, but I think the one to see is Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes. Maybe we'll see a repeat of Sheamus 515. Who knows? I tell you who knows. I know, maybe. You have to stay tuned to my Money in the Bank predictions video to find out. So, onward! Camp and Stanford return as a duo for the Go Home Raw Talk on June 27th. This is like Cena Raw, and they begin in reverent fashion with a rundown of the 20-year celebration of Cena. It's fascinating to see John Cena have literally grown out of the Cena sucks chants, especially the John Cena sucks chants that go along with his entrance music. The little kids who loved him have grown up and continue to love him, but us older young adults remember how he was polarizing when there was a debate in the chants, let's go Cena versus Cena sucks. But also a testament to how hard he's worked all these years. I'm astonished that Theory didn't interfere somehow, but I suppose they're gonna wait until Money in the Bank is in the books until they turn the heat up on that feud. Then they replay the closing moments of the women's last chance elimination qualifying match. Big Time Bex is now the final entrant in the women's match. And even though I wanted to see someone new, the idea of her bothering everyone in sight for months on end as Miss Money in the Bank just works. Riddle was the next to last to qualify for the guys, and Sarah Schreiber has the original bro backstage. Riddle says he's making Randy so proud, and John Cena told him that Randy was proud. He got a manicure and a pedicure, and the bros going to Vegas. She asked if Randy would have any choice advice for Riddle, and Riddle responds to put it all on black. His nails match her dress. All right. They introduced Jerry the King Lawler, and when asked about the ladder match, the Hall of Famer recommends that everybody just gang up on Omos, get rid of him, and then fight it out amongst themselves. Stanford points out that there are 7 talented women in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and while of course there are, I was a bit surprised because it was at this moment that I realized that there aren't 8 women that they put in the ladder match. It may be a missed opportunity. At least Doudrop or Nikki ASH could have been on it as well. I know I said Tamina before, but any one of them would have worked. Can you tell I've been spoiled by 8 participants? After some reflections about John Cena from King, there are some ads, and upon the show's return, they discussed Liv getting the win over Alexa Bliss. Liv says she did everything she set out to do this evening, but she needs that briefcase like she needs to breathe. She can feel it in her bones that she's going to be Miss Money in the Bank. Now, Schreiber asks what it'll mean for her to win, and she says it would be everything to her. She wants to win for her fans. They believe in her so much, even when she feels she gives them nothing to believe in. So she wants to win not only for herself, but for her fans, so she can give them something to believe in. I dug this. You can almost sense this desperation and excitement in her voice all at one time. I'm not sure if Liv will win, but I definitely believe she'll be the one to gain the most from winning. It'll do the most for her career. Meanwhile, WWE is doing their best to keep the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes within the WWE universe's consciousness. They called the segment with him at physical therapy an interview, but truth be told, it was almost kind of like a promo, and the lower third was titled Cody's Money in the Bank Thoughts. I do miss seeing him, so mission accomplished, but I want him to take all the time he needs in recovering completely. They then show a clip of Montez Ford defeating Jey Uso, and I can see a little of that future singles star in Ford. When Schreiber asks about Money in the Bank, Ford announces the Street Profits championship match against the Usos as only he can. He says that what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas, except them becoming the new undisputed tag team champions. For King's part, he thinks the Usos are at their best with pressure, and they won't want to disappoint Roman Reigns. He goes on to say that everyone loves the Street Profits, but while they want the smoke, all their championship dreams are about to go up in smoke because the Usos are all business. Then he checks in with his obligatory one-liner. Everyone wants the Street Profits to get ahead because no one likes the ones they have. His pick for Money in the Bank is now Drew McIntyre, while Matt Camp thinks the honorary Us Sami Zayn will, with the protection of the Bloodline, win. At first, I saw that as a bit of an outlandish thought, but then with Zayn claiming that he would win their contract to protect the tribal chief, maybe it could be like a mutual back scratch type deal. Who's to say? But they run down the entire card, and if you want to see more about that, and who my personal picks are, what do you need to do? Check out my Money in the Bank predictions video to see where you and your picks and your predictions line up. My rating for this Go Home Raw Talk was 3 out of 5. Relatively little excitement. The Street Profits didn't have much in the way of new material or material at all. Not their fault though. Liv was alright, and as much as Riddle is usually a sure thing for a live segment, it was kind of just like a repeat of Randy's Proud of Me, I'm making Randy proud. We all love Randy, but we need to love Riddle too. And the show was kind of all just a gray haze after an action-packed Raw. That may have something to do with the excitement around John Cena. Maybe they just didn't have a lot of time to try to build up Raw talk. But we'll see what they do on the other side of Money in the Bank. So what do you think? Will the final pick for the men's Money in the Bank match determine who wins? How long do the two submission specialists, Natalya and Ronda, go in their championship match? Will Mr. and Miss Money in the Bank cash in successfully? When do they cash in? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to like this video, comment on it, share it, subscribe if you haven't, and tap that bell icon to make sure you get notifications for when new videos come out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.